The purpose of this slideshow is to give you details about how to use the Concordia lesson plan template. It's important that you have both lesson plans that are embedded in the course available to look at while listening to this narration. There is one on 4th grade math and another on 9th grade history. It's also important that you use the pause function to be able to take notes because there will be a quiz based on this slideshow. The student name should be your name. For this field, you'll want to fill in the date of when you're going to be teaching a lesson, whether it be in actuality or theoretically. In the time field, you want to fill in how long the lesson will take. For the subject field, you're going to be referencing the curricular area that you'll be working on. If you are going to be integrating several curricular areas, the best bet would be to fill all of those in, or simply put down the area that you'll be teaching primarily. An example of that would be perhaps you're teaching a social studies lesson where they're doing a lot of reading and you're working on reading objectives too. You may want to just put in social studies. This is especially important for elementary teachers. This one's rather simple. Just put in the grades of the students that you'll be working with. Your cooperating teacher is the teacher that is going to be responsible for the class that you're going to be working in. They are going to be observing you and are going to be giving you feedback on how you did. The title of your lesson should be as specific as possible, connected to your objectives or the curricular area that you'll be working in. For the math lesson, we're looking at multi-step problems with multiplication and subtraction. Within the history lesson, we're looking at perspective and specifically on the Black Hawk War, but in general, perspective that the kids will be using in other lessons. Most lessons will be embedded in units that are several lessons long. The unit is usually determined by state or district standards. For math, it's numbers and operations. For the history lesson, it is how to study history. Wisconsin is beginning to adopt Common Core standards, so when you go on the link on this slide, you will notice that math and language arts in 2012 are Common Core connected with the National Common Core standards. Other subject areas will be connected with the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards. It's important that when filling this part out that you only choose one or two standards. Otherwise, when you get to the assessment part of your lesson, it'll be very hard for you to determine which parts the kids are successful at with one single assessment tool, which is preferable. The objectives of your lesson should be more specific than the standards above. You'll want to choose 2 or 3 specific and measurable objectives that are connected directly with the assessment tool that you're going to be using later in the lesson plan. In the math example, we're looking at objectives revolving around kids being able to be more and more sophisticated with multi-step story problem solution strategies. In the history lesson, we're taking a look at kids being able to understand how history works, and specifically how perspective plays into understanding history and how primary and secondary sources are, what their uses are. Probably one of the most important parts of lesson planning is determining the assessment tools that you're going to use to ascertain whether the kids understood what you wanted them to or not. In the 4th grade math lesson, we're taking a look at specifically student work as an assessment tool. So the kids are either going to be sharing within some sort of online learning tool, or working on story problems that are cut into strips and then glued into journals. You're going to be looking at how successful they were with their strategy, and there are some specific things I'll be looking at in terms of where are they bogging down with their solution strategy, so that I can use that the next time I teach them to further them along the continuum of understanding multi-step problems. Within the history lesson, we're taking a look at the answering a journal prompt that has to do with whether they are able to understand what they've read and understand the discussion that they've had with their group about the primary and secondary sources about the Black Hawk War that they'll be looking at. The materials needed for the lesson are the basic things that you are going to either ask the kids to bring or that you're going to be providing for them. This includes any sort of worksheets or prepped material that you need to do ahead of time, so that you have that on your radar as you're getting ready for the day. It's not important for you to include the small ancillary items such as pencils, erasers, things that the kids would normally have for every lesson that you teach in that subject area. As you introduce a lesson, you need to be thoughtful about how you're priming the kids for learning. That certainly looks different depending on the age level that you're working with, but for elementary kids, that might include some sort of energizer to just get them excited about learning. In the math lesson, we're looking at both a mantra just to get them thinking positively about what they're about to do, and then an energizer just to get their brains warmed up. Sometimes math is taught in the afternoon in elementary classes, and that can be a very challenging time to get kids up and motivated about what they're about to do. For the history lesson, we're actually showing a video that gets the kids either curious or perhaps even upset about this time period and wanting to know more about what they're going to be learning for the day. In both examples that you see in front of you, the learning activities are rather brief, with the intention that there would be other materials included stapled to the lesson plan sheet that you have in front of you. With the math, that would include the strips that are created. It would also include anything that's loaded up on the smartboard that can't be really embedded in this particular lesson plan template. It's important that you keep all these materials together for two reasons. One, so that you're ready to teach, and two, so that if others would like to view what you've taught or perhaps use it, you've got it all there for them. With the math lesson, that includes smartboard preloaded activities, and also the things that you're going to be doing to set up the class, like small group rotation. You'll have something that you've created for the kids on an individual basis and perhaps posted in the room so that they know what they're doing during certain periods of time during that particular lesson. For the history lesson, that would include how you're going to prearrange the groups, what your prompts are for your journal, that you've got the video up and it's ready to play when the kids walk in the room, and then perhaps even some sort of link to the particular sources that you're going to have loaded into whatever your multimedia presentation is going to be, ready to go so that you can just press play and the kids can get started. These are important things that you need to scrimmage as you get better at teaching. They become natural, but if you don't practice them now, you will find yourself unprepared for lessons. And if you're not prepared for lessons, it doesn't matter how well you thought them out. If you don't have things ready to go, the kids will start to act up. It's a guarantee. Closure activities are placed in your lesson plan in order to get the kids to sum up what they're thinking or allow them a chance to process so that they are able to keep it in short-term memory and then hopefully get whatever it is that you've taught them into long-term memory. They usually shouldn't be very complicated. They may involve homework or they may involve some sort of prompt that you've created ahead of time so that the kids can process in a journal or in a discussion format. It's really important to keep it simple so that, especially if they're doing it for homework, because if you don't, you'll be getting phone calls or emails. Kids don't remember complex instructions by the time they get home. As you think about your delivery model for the lesson, it's very important to think about all the individual learning needs in your classroom. In the accommodations for diverse learners, you'll want to think about 3 important things in order to have a successful lesson. One is, what skill levels are you working with in this class? 2, what do the kids already know that they can access? What do they not know that you're going to have to build up? And finally, are they interested in what you're teaching, or are you going to have to sell it to them? It's very important that you think about, okay, what does that have to do with my whole class, but then also individual students, not just with their academic abilities, but their emotional readiness for the lesson as well. There's a lot of debate about the role of homework within individual lessons, but what's important is whatever you assign, whether it be classwork or homework, that it's directly connected back with your objectives, and particularly if it's homework, that it's something that is building upon what the kids did during the class so that when they get home they can access what they've just done and perhaps provide some sort of meaning to what they did so that it'll stick longer in their brain. Homework should not be more complex or challenging than what you'd expect if you were there with them in the classroom. But it's important that it is very clear what they're supposed to do, and that if it's a type of homework that you are expecting through several lessons, perhaps that it's also ritualistic and the kids know what the format is and what you expect from them every single time. And that's something that would be, something you would coach the kids to do. It wouldn't be just for this lesson, but it'd be something you'd want to connect to how you do things for the whole class. The final piece of your lesson is something you do after you've taught it. The reflections or revisions are things that you want to consider if you were to teach the lesson again, or perhaps as you get deeper into a unit, things that you've noticed the kids are struggling with. It's actually a very crucial part of your lesson and should be filled out before you turn it into an instructor, or even in general practice, it's an important thing to do.